Hi guys, welcome to my new series, That Scene. This series is all about those moments in horror that shake you to your core. Have you talking to your friends the next day and saying, that scene though. I know it's all happened to us one time or another, and I know it's definitely happened recently in Hereditary. Shout out. But you know, when we're talking about that scene, that's what this series is all about. I'm going to dive really deep into some just particular scenes and break down what happens in the scene and why they left us shook. I hate myself. And you'll want to hang around to the end of each episode, because at the end, we'll hear from another YouTuber and about that scene for them that changed them forever. So let's just jump into it. Let's talk about that scene. Yes, I started with that scene that had you squeamish as hell from Brian De Palma's 1976 Carrie, based on the novel by Stephen King. And the cool thing about that scene in this movie is that scene was also the opening scene. 1976 supernatural American horror film Carrie is based on Stephen King's novel of the same name. The film launched Sissy Spacek to new heights and featured John Travolta, Nancy Allen, William Catt, and Amy Irvine. The film was also the first of 100 film and television productions based on Stephen King's work. Here is where I'd normally give you a lead into this scene and any prior knowledge that you need before we get into it. But because this is the opening scene, you don't need much of a lead up. Although there is a quick scene, no longer than 30 seconds, that happens before this opening credit scene that takes place before the dolly slides into the bathroom. This is the scene when the girls at school are playing a game of volleyball and Carrie misses the ball. And then all of the girls start bullying her, walking past her to the bathroom, and one even hits her on the head. Kind of setting up the feel for, you know, Carrie getting bullied. Cut to the bathroom. This is where the magic happens. Soft music, foggy screen, soft camera movements. Even the titles that appear on the screen are in cursive and inviting. You're just waiting for the pillow fight to begin when the camera changes angles and focuses on Carrie standing alone in the dark shower, rubbing her naked body with soap, and then it happens. Blood. The music cuts. Carrie, sheltered from the real world, has no idea what is happening to her. She is confused and emerges quickly from the shower, dripping with blood. She grabs onto her fellow peers with a mix of grunts and squeals. They push her away in utter disgust, making noises to signal their repulsion. Carrie begins screaming. "Help me" is the actual first words heard. The crowd responds in "have a tampon," and they all start to band together, pushing Carrie back into the shower. Not with their hands, but with their body language. Carrie backs away, screaming, "Help me," completely traumatized. And then the infamous chant takes place as the tampons are ripped out of the dispenser. Plug it up, plug it up. Plug it up. A teacher rushes in to see what the commotion is all about and attempts to shake the girls into their senses. "What are you doing?" "She's got her period." "Who?" "Carrie." "What are you doing?" And that's where I'm gonna cut this scene. Traumatized? I am. She was. Wow, I am so appreciative that I saw this at an appropriate age, because this would have scared the out of me as, you know, a pre-pubescent child. And I think that this scene is shocking for so many reasons. There's so many layers to it. But first, the red herring. You are lured into a shower scene in a girl's locker room. This is the last thing you're expecting. And I don't think it's even shocking because it is blood coming from a girl's vagina. Obviously. I think it's shocking because it's pure reality in a fantasy moment. The next layer I would like to add is the fear of the unknown. Can you imagine what it would have been like to be Carrie in that moment, being so sheltered and naive and not knowing what's happening to you, and at the same time having everyone that could have helped you turn on you. She literally thinks she's dying and these people are just screaming at her. It's worse than that nightmare when you show up to school with literally no clothes on. I always have that nightmare. It's cold, it's harsh, and again, it's totally traumatizing. Which brings me to the final layer, and I want you to stay with me here. As the blood hits Carrie's leg, I can't help but wonder how poetic this all really is. This part of the film, I believe, is the catalyst for what's to come. The blood representing the blood that is later dropped on her head. The fact that that is what creates the girls to get to tension later in the film, that they start hating on Carrie, and then the blood again is spilt on her. This all starts from her getting her period. So the bloodshed starts and ends with Carrie. Interesting. Have you thought of that before? And that is why this scene is not just that scene because it's shocking, but because it's so important. It's the scene that really sums up Carrie, her fears, her life, her sheltered existence. And it really gives her the ammo to justify what happens later in the film and what she does. Did you know that many of the girls who appeared in the scene actually refused to be nude at first? But when the director showed them nude shots of Sissy Spacek, they became more confident and eventually agreed to the part. For me, this scene was a great one to start with because it's what that scene, my new series, is all about. But I want to know what scene makes you go, oh, that scene. I want to know down in the comments below. And remember to thumbs up this video so I know that you guys like this new series and want me to keep going. But if you're still around, before we go, here's Lee, Drumdums, talking about a famous horror scene that greatly impacted him.
What's up, everybody? I'm Lee from Drumdums. And first off, thank you, Emma from Spooky Astronauts, for inviting me to your September special where we horror fans get to discuss our favorite horror scenes, which is something that I've thought about doing on my channel for like maybe a top 10 favorite horror scenes. But yeah, this is a great idea, actually. And there were a few that really came to mind when she asked me to do this, but I guess the one that really, I guess, shifted my viewpoint of horror in general would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner scene. This was not the first horror movie I'd ever seen, but up until this point, you know, everything I had watched was, you could tell that it was produced. You could tell that it didn't feel, I guess, real, for lack of a better term, but this was just a game changer. That's what this was. When I finally saw really the whole movie, this felt like real horror. Like this felt unsafe. I guess that's the best word for it, unsafe. Especially by the time they get to the dinner scene. And really the behind the scenes story on this scene is just as interesting, actually. The rumor is that they spent anywhere from 24 to 27 hours straight doing this scene. And you have the whole family gathered around the table. And then you have Sally, our final girl, sitting at the end of the table. And she is really just being psychologically tortured. And behind the scenes, this scene was, in over 100-degree temperatures. It was extremely hot, extremely stressful. Nobody wanted to be in the room. And one thing is, it really, really stunk. Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, actually wore the same outfit throughout the whole shoot. Never washed it, so it was covered in blood. So you had a lethal combination of body odor and blood. And it was just torturous. And then you have Sally screaming her head off. Marilyn Chambers, behind the scenes, rest in peace, stated that wasn't acting. By this point in the movie, she had completely lost her mind. That's how stressful a shoot this was. And I guess that's why it feels real. It carries over outside of the celluloid. And so then finally she jumps out the window, gets in the truck, and of course they had to reshoot that whole scene because I guess they didn't get the take that they wanted. So then she had to come back and reshoot the scene. But that is probably one of the most unique horror scenes in horror history. And still to this day, it's one of those that really sticks out for me. So, Emma, thank you so much for having me on this special. Really enjoyed it. My name is Lee. I'm from Drumdums. And hey, thank you guys, and have a great September.